When old whites in rural America interviewed MAGA, they're interviewed about MAGA and Donald Trump and how they think he's doing and the tariffs and the things that they don't really understand or know. They always say, oh, I think it's going to be great. He's going to get us back to the place where we need to be, where other countries aren't taking advantage of us through trade deficits. First of all, they don't understand what a trade deficit is, and they don't understand that the larger economy is always going to have a trade deficit with the smaller economy. It's always going to happen. It's always happened. It will continue to happen. It's one of the reasons you have tariffs. But they don't understand what they're looking at here in the economy, which is fine. A lot of us don't. Sometimes I don't think I know what the fuck I'm seeing. I probably don't. But they always say something, and the media never follows the question. CNN, it doesn't matter. NBC, ABC, of course not Fox, but they'll ask these people, and these people say, well, Donald Trump is going to get us back, basically they're going to make America great again. And I would love to hear the follow-up question. When was America great in your eyes? When was this idealized time? Because any decades you point out, I can point out counter narratives to that and not even have to work that hard. When was it good for you, working class person in rural Kentucky? Was it in the 90s? When Walmart, the late 80s and 90s, when the Walmartization of America happened, when all of your little shops and stores were closed down because Walmart came in and bought up large parts of land and bribed all of your politicians? When was it? Was it the 80s? Was it during Reaganomics? When Reagan drove the deficit up by giving tax cuts to the rich, increasing military spending, cutting social services, changing the economy for the worst? I'm here from the government. I'm the 9 most scared, 9 words Reagan feared the most. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help, because he was immoral for him. He believed, because that was the thing at the time, that it was immoral that the government would step in and help anyone or do anything for anyone in welfare programs or anything like that. Oh, they don't mean the same thing for corporations or businesses or rich people. They mean for you. It would be immoral for us to help you, poor person who needs help from the government more than any other entity, more than any corporation or rich person needs a tax cut or another break on their property taxes. What was it, the 70s? With the great inflation of the mid-19 or the 70s and moving into the mid-80s? Was that a good time when the real genesis of demanufacturing the United States began? Or when they artificially drove up gas prices, the gas shortages of the 70s? When was this time? The 60s? The 60s, before black people could vote in 1965 for president? For the Civil Rights Act? Before any environmental protections, before the EPA existed? The 1950s? I mean, maybe you're talking about the 1950s with Ozzie and Harriet. And, the trad woman never had to work. She wore a dress all day long. She took care of the house. The man, when he became the breadwinner, I mean, I know that's what Project 2025 wants. That's what they're hearkening back to. But they just want white, straight males to run everything. I mean, that's really their goal. But when was this imaginary good time? Because MAGA didn't exist. America has never been a quote-unquote great country for a large amounts of people. Women, minorities, and poor and working class people. They were treated like shit, like second-class citizens before the ERA movement of women's rights and equal pay, which we still don't have. When was this great time? Was it when they privatized colleges, or they made it so you couldn't even afford to go to college or get educated, and so you were forced into a terrible manufacturing job working around chemicals and loud machinery and dangerous environments? This imaginary time that these people are talking about, I think, and I believe this to be true, it's about culture. They're struggling financially, like everybody in America that's working class and that's poor. I got news for you. You've always struggled working class and poor. You never have enough. You can't take months off of work to go do what you want to do. If you get sick, you're fucked. Sure, you can't afford to get your car fixed sometimes, so you have to wait a couple of paychecks. This has always been the case for working people. And also, I know that people like to go back to this time when houses were apparently so cheap that that's a real tough sell for me, because I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and the houses weren't cheap. Houses were not, they were still, yeah, they're outrageously priced now, but the housing market back then wasn't some great, wonderful thing. You were making more money at work, maybe. You could save a little more. Groceries weren't so expensive. You know the American deal. America used to be a place. We have low taxes. We have light regulation. And you get to do whatever, it's the trade-off. But you don't get health care. You don't get any subsidized. You don't get any, not subsidized. You don't get a public option. You don't get any say on anything federal, because it's illegal it's unconstitutional to have a national mandate on anything, whether if you wanted to vote for abortion rights or you wanted to vote for, you can't. You have to have a representative do it. So there's always somebody between you and real democracy, which are usually a rich person or a corrupt asshole. So when was this great imaginary time? It wasn't the early 2000s, certainly. Not post 9/11 America. They'll make some shit up in their brains about how it was better when they were kids. And because they're looking at it through a lens of a child. They're looking at it through a lens of people who never really paid attention to the society around them until it started to affect them financially. They were perfectly fine with living in states that were run by a bunch of conservative weirdos and a bunch of evangelical Christians. They're still fine with it. Louisiana, have you seen some of Louisiana's representatives? I mean, my God. They want a religious theocracy. They want a Christian-based nation. And they want white cis males to run it. That's it. That's Project 2025. That's rural, white, older Americans. And some younger ones. There's a lot of young MAGA. But these old fuckers who voted for Bush twice, voted for Reagan, hated anything from the Democratic Party or the left. They listened to all of the talk shows. 30 years ago, they were introduced to Fox News, and they haven't turned it off since. They bought into the war on terror, and they made excuses for extraordinary rendition, taking people to Guantanamo Bay and torturing them. And then Barack Obama ran on closing Guantanamo Bay and did not do it. When was this? I think it was before the George Floyd riots. I think it was before Black Lives Matter. I think it was before these social movements started to show the ugliness and the decay of the police state, of the prison industrial for profit industry. I think it started to show the ugliness of corporations and businesses like Walmart coming into your community and shutting down the hardware store and shutting down the grocery store and shutting down the little florist that was there and shutting down the little, whatever else there on your main street. And now you drive through main streets all over America and they're unbelievably sad. And if they haven't tried to rebuild them in some way through government funding, of course, and, loans and getting businesses in virtually for free just to take care of the properties, they're dilapidated old brick buildings who are no longer the center of town. The center of town has been moved 10 miles away to Walmart. And because it's cheaper land, you build those ridiculous box stores that only last 15 years or so. And you have parking and you need all that other stuff. So these cities and communities all over the South and the Midwest and even in the West, even the small towns in the West, they were left for dead because of things like Walmart, because of the unchecked greed of their politicians who were largely conservatives. Not saying all were, but largely were conservatives. There is article after article after article written about capitalism's absolute absolute victory in the 90s and the 2000s over small town America. There's some places, there's no place to buy groceries that's anywhere close. They have to drive 30, 40 miles to go to buy groceries. If a Walmart feels like it's not getting enough tax incentives, or if it's not profitable enough, the Walmarts are still profitable. They're just not profitable enough. They will close that big box store down, and then they have it written in their rules that no, their competitors can't rent the space or take over the space. So the city ends up having to take them over and turn them into public works buildings and things like that, which cost tens of millions of dollars to renovate. Because these buildings are not built for the long haul. They're built for 15 years. They're built really cheap and really quick. And all of this is documented. All of this is true. And this is Walmart's business plan. But the point with Walmart is you let the corporatization, you let the Targets of the world, you let these grocery stores keep merging until finally there's just there's going to be 2 grocery stores left. They'll all be owned by the same companies. You know, they stole your future, your children's future and your grandchildren's future while you were babbling about the Second Amendment, while you were talking shit about, I don't have a problem with black people. It's just the N-words I have a problem with. Or I don't trust people that aren't Christians. All of those social, now it's woke, DEI, used to be social justice warrior, that whole fucking thing. And these old whites are proud to be covered in shit. They wear their MAGA crap proudly. This is their empowerment. He's their quote unquote champion. That's who they look up to and think these are all Christians. And what I always find funny about Christians are the easiest marks in the world. If you ever want to scam people, start with Christians. Christians are easily tricked and easily separated from their wallets. They're very immature emotionally. They're extremely intellectually stunted. And they have belief systems that were given to them by rich billionaires in the fossil fuel industry and in other fields. And they've never invested in your community if it wasn't profitable for them to do it. They don't, I always heard something once, people want all this the Republicans, this was during the mid-2000s, and this guy was, I don't remember who, Michael Prenti maybe. Michael Prenti said, yeah, people think they want these corporations and they want to vote with their dollar. That's idiotic, first of all. And secondly, you can't vote out a CEO. You can't vote out a board of directors. I can vote my local politicians out. I can run against them. I can create, I can't do that with a corporation. Voting with your dollar. Oh, so I'm not going to buy shampoo anymore from Target? Oh, congratulations. It's meaningless. They're not closing businesses down. They're not shuttering. They'll just absorb this little wave of anger and move on. And so, like I said, I always wonder why the media never follows up and says, when exactly was this time that America was so wonderful? When was this time? And then if you would even follow with that, you can explain to them why. Sam Cedar points this out all the time about the marginal tax rate for wealthy people in the 50s and even into the 60s was way higher than it is now. And that was one of the things that built that, in that we were a country that was involved in World War II and was never attacked, save Pearl Harbor, an island we have no business being on as colonial settlers. But we were never attacked in mainland America. And there was a reason for that. I mean, the war was in Europe and the war was in the Pacific. And we got home and we were on top of the world because everybody else was trying to recover from World War II. And this magical, wonderful time that all these people want to bring back, I know for a fact in American history it never existed. And I know it's about culture. I know it's a dog whistle now. I think I knew always, but I kind of have solidified my opinions about it just through observation, is that it's about culture. It's all about culture. You're watching the people on television change their skin color is different. You're seeing transgender people everywhere. I mean, on your TV, on Fox particularly, they can't show enough gay pride parades. And I think it's culture. I think they don't like all the brown people. They don't like the Spanish. They don't like any of it. Thank you for listening. And MAGA, man, what a bunch of idiots.